I think the strongest power with augmented reality, besides completely breaking paradigms, is going to be its ability to help us envision future products or envision things that don't exist yet in the world. To be able to test and try out items that right now are not inside of the world. Now, I know a lot of people, especially when you look at Apple. Let's give them as an example. And let's look at the Vision Pro for a second. But if you look at their product, what they're kind of saying is that the killer app is essentially multiple screens. It's killing off the laptop and the tablet and the phone and everything. That's it, mainly the Mac, with its ability to make multiple screens. And for years, I've been saying that that is the wrong approach. If all you're looking for is making virtual, if all you're looking for is multiple screens, that is an evolution of the computer of today, of the last 4, 5, 6 decades of computers. It's this flat screen method of working with this computer, this 2D interface. And more holographic screens, multiple of them, unlimited of them, is just continuing that trend. And that's essentially what you're doing. That is the killer app of the Vision Pro, of a lot of devices that come. They try give like some games, education, things like that. What I actually think the killer app or the killer experience of augmented reality, at least in the very beginning, but I think is going to be one of its most powerful features, is this ability to envision what doesn't currently exist. You can look at anything from small scale to, let's say, from haircuts, to be able to envision what a haircut would look at you, dyeing your hair, or whatever it is, jewelry, things like that, to large scale of envisioning what a city could look like or a building could look like in architecture. Today I'm going to pick on a very specific example from working on many projects. One of the hardest things to do is to properly explain or properly envision something that doesn't exist yet. And this is one of the main powers of creators. This is one of their superpowers, is they're able to envision something that does not yet exist in the world, and then hopefully bring that vision into fruition. Whether you're a sculptor, an architect, a product designer, even an app designer, a painter, any type of creator, what is happening is you've got this idea in your head and you're bringing it out into the real world. When you're looking at products, I'm going to focus on a project, a security project, specifically something recently that I was involved in, and something as mundane as putting up a fence. There is nothing like actually seeing the product in real life. And why is that? Why is it so hard to work on these projects? They're not massive things that are going to change your life, and yet the amount of time and energy that is spent on trying to finagle and bring your vision into life when you're working with competing parties, when you're working with a wide variety of skills, of contractors, to be able to get everybody on the same page, it's quite difficult nowadays. Everybody's got their own idea in their head, and the tools that you usually have, you're left to communicating in emails, maybe having task managers, drawing things up in 2D floor plans, which don't translate very well to the 3D world. To be able to get small details correct before they happen it's an understatement to be able to explain the complexity that is involved in something that at the end of the day should be very simple. And when you end up with that product at the end, you look at like a finished product, it seems like it was all simple, but to be able to convey those nuances, to be able to ensure that everybody's on the right page, that all details are there, the tools in the tool belt of contractors, builders, and let's look at the variety. Let's take an example, this fence. If it's a security fence, you're looking at just the metal works. You're looking at any electronics required to actually control the gates. You're looking at access control to get things done. You're looking at maybe cameras that you want to put there, where they go, how they go, cabling, conduiting, making sure you're trenching correctly. And then in the security aspect of it, how can you see through it, how tall it is, What happens during the day when there is sunlight going onto it? What happens to the metal then? What happens at night when the infrared of these cameras might turn on or something like that? All these things working in conjunction, and even readers, the Bluetooth range, all those things have very big consequences, and you don't want to start cutting into metal. You don't want to have your fence fabricated and find out that there are issues with it. These are just a couple examples of things that I've dealt with on just this project itself. And it's almost like, not almost like, if we could have seen this fence in its finished stage, on the fence line before anything existed, imagine how different this project could have gone. I'll give you some examples of things that are difficult. To be able to understand the height of the fence, to see if anyone could, for example, climb over it. You think you know what 2 meters are, you think you know what 2.5 meters are, you think you know what 1.8 meters are, but to actually see it in reality. To understand, can you see through the gate? From which angle? You can get a rendering of a picture from one specific, one area, but to be able to really understand that. So taking a step back and just re-explaining this concept is to be able to envision anything, a product, clothes, a project, in the real world, walk around it, try it on. Imagine retail where you could try on jackets and have the feeling of what it feels like, but even to look at that, look at jewelry. But we're looking specifically at this fence, but I'm saying like anything over here that does not exist in the real world, to be able to help clients, help people envision it before this thing actually exists in the real world it's a skill that very few people have. To be able to envision 3D objects very well in your mind is a certain intelligence. It's not something that everybody has. I'm not saying that people are not intelligent. I'm just saying this is a skill that some people can think very well in 3D. Other people think they can think well in 3D until you actually give it to them, to be able to envision that. So we're doing two things. We're helping people that cannot really visualize this, and we're also bringing together multiple people on a team to really be involved in the conversation as you go forward. So we can think very, in sci-fi movies, you might have seen this on buildings and getting people together to be able to look at buildings. But this is why I wanted to give the example of something much smaller, something like a fence, where you would think it's much simpler. But to be able to envision that, the amount of times, like, for example, I'll give personal things on this project, the amount of emails and video calls and explanations and drawings and writing up, to only then find out that it didn't go well and be able to have to fix that in the end because someone didn't properly understand. The amount of times I had to, when I wanted to convey that I wanted to have a certain piece installed in a very, very specific spot, there is a bunch of reasons why I'm doing that. But because I can't show it in 3D, I'm left to doing a bird's eye view, a side view, sketching it out. And after all that work of trying to sketch it out, when the person that's doing the installation says, oh yeah, I understand it, to then not understand it is a big problem. With cameras, it's something that I've seen a lot. It's nearly impossible to visualize what that camera will see before you actually connect the camera. Now, once you've connected the camera, you probably had to run wires, and usually it's too late. You've cut into brick, you've cut into metal, you've made holes in places, you've run cables, you've run conduits. All these different things require planning beforehand to ensure it goes seamlessly. To be able to throw that up in augmented reality, to have that not just design a fence in 3D. Like imagine if I could either design a fence or mock up a fence and put it in the real world, to be able to walk around it in different simulations, let's say, in sunlight, in rain, to be able to see, if I put a reader there, what is the range going to be? What is the Bluetooth range? Like these kind of things are very hard to visualize, but with augmented reality, I can show you those areas, I can test them out. So envisioning a project before it happens, before it exists in the world, is something that doesn't, it's kind of taken for granted that the way we work nowadays is emails and maybe a small slice of an engineering drawing, or maybe for bigger projects, I'll give you like a rendering, a very single rendering. But to be able to see everything, to simulate it, to see what it works, to walk around the real site and see virtual objects before they're manufactured, before they're built, with all their components, discuss, test, and then put a shovel into the ground, makes the difference of the world in these small things. Imagine what they're going to do in massive projects. And yeah, there's so much more into this, but yeah, imagine soon when you could create things with your voice. It's going to be crazy.